The Dallas Cowboys are in the process of rebuilding this entire defense. I'm on record saying it should take 2 years, but I'm looking over the roster and I'm wondering, have they accomplished that in just one offseason? Let's take a look at that right now.
Cowboys nation, stand up tall. We'll never let spirit fall.
Let's go, baby!
Blue and white will always fight. Determined to reach that height.
So this defense was absolutely abysmal last year, ranking dead last. It couldn't get turnovers, couldn't get stops. There was nothing seemingly this defense could do that was really worth a damn. It was just one of the worst things that any of us have ever witnessed in the history of this Dallas Cowboys franchise. And that's not an overstatement. It was a historically bad defense. Now, I've said when you have a defense that bad, you're not going to rebuild this thing in just one season. It's not really possible, right? However, I'm looking over the additions they made, both on the coaching staff and the roster, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is a completely new defense. It really is. I mean, when you look at the changes they made, doing some of the math, they've got 8 new players that'll be in camp this year that weren't in camp last year, either via injury or they just weren't on the roster. They've got 7 more guys, I believe, behind them that are going to be key contributors. When we get into camp, into week 1, you're going to hear names, you're going to see names that you're like, wow, I forgot that guy was on the team. And I think a lot of people are going to be shocked at just how much of an impact Quinnen Williams has, Kenny Clark, these guys that didn't get to go through a whole camp with the Cowboys, got traded for just before the season or during the season, the kind of impact those guys have, not to mention the guys they traded for, the additions they've had in free agency, which we'll go through in just a minute. But this is an entirely new defense, and I'm so proud of what this front office has accomplished during this offseason. Now, I just mentioned the trades and the additions they made in free agency, so let's go ahead and take a look at that right now. When we start with Rashan Gary, right, he's the edge from Green Bay. This is a guy who reminds me a lot of a DeMarcus Lawrence type, a Jadeveon Clowney. He's a very high motor player, very strong player, great in run defense, really good job at setting the edge. He's not a quick twitch guy, as in he's not going to get off the ball super fast, but he's a guy that gets after quarterbacks, has tons of pressures, decent amount of sack, kind of a mid-range sack guy, but he constantly is putting pressure on the opposing team, whether that's in the run game or getting after the passer, and he's a guy that allows other guys to excel on the defensive line, the other edges across from him, and the interior pressure guys. When you add up kind of all those pieces the Cowboys have put together on this defensive line, Rashan Gary looks to me like he's a player that's really going to make an impact for the Cowboys in 2026. And now a bit of breaking news here. It looks like DeMarvion Overshown announced he's going to be the middle linebacker with green dot responsibilities. So it looks like D. Winters will be playing the weak side linebacker alongside DeMarvion Overshown. And D. Winters is a guy out in San Francisco who filled in when injuries occurred, and he did nice, right? He did a nice job. He's a guy that can fly, smart, instinctive player, and the linebacker room sorely needed addressed. And the Cowboys did that during the draft twice. They drafted a guy and they traded for D. Winters. So really good job by the front office maneuvering that and filling this thing out the best they could. They lost out on some guys during free agency, unfortunately, like Nakobe Dean. But I think that what they did after that, via the trades and the drafting of Barham, I think that they addressed this room adequately enough, especially when you look at the hogs they have in front of them on the defensive line. I think this linebacker room is looking just fine. Then we'll run through the draft picks. Obviously, Caleb Downs, number 1 overall guy on a lot of boards, right? Smartest player in the draft, probably in the last several drafts, but he fell because of the position. And listen, you can kind of miss me with the value stuff on safeties because he's not just going to sit back in a too high shell the whole game. He'll be kind of your nickel guy. He'll be out there covering guys in the slot. Yeah, he will be interchangeable with like Jalen Thompson and some of these other guys where he will play, too high safety or deep throw, whatever at times. But Caleb Downs gives you the ability to have just a strong leader, extremely strong leader, an intelligent guy on the field, telling veterans where to line up already in OTAs, but also a guy who's physically gifted, has the brain power to be where he's got to be before the offense knows even what's going on or the play even develops. And he's a transformative player, and I still can't believe the Cowboys were able to trade up to 11 from pick 12 and grab him in this last draft. And their second first-round pick, Malachi Lawrence from UCF, he's a guy who is your quick twitch win kind of guy, opposite of your Rashan Garys of the world. And he'll be in and out of the lineup with Donovan Ezeraku, but you're just adding guys to that stable of pass rushers to help, you know, get a little bit of get up and go on that and add a little juice to that pass rush room that didn't exist before that Lawrence pick. Really, the only quick win guy you had before that was Donovan Ezraku, and even he's not really as much of a quick win guy as Malachi Lawrence is. So excited to see what the pass rusher can do in his first year in the league. We talked about adding linebackers. Jashawn Barham is a guy who, when we look at this linebacker room again, needed help. And Barham's a guy who can rush off the edge, or he can go play linebacker. He is a wrecking ball, right? Just a very physical player. And if you haven't seen the picture of him standing next to Donovan Ezraku already, Barham is a very big dude. Very big dude. He's much bigger than Ezraku is. He made Ezraku look like an infant in that photo. And Barham is just a guy who looks like a grown man who's already ready to play NFL football. And then we look at the last two, Devin Moore and LT Overton. Moore is a corner. A really gifted guy, but oftentimes injured. I think that's why he was a 4th-round pick. But if he can stay healthy, he can have a very promising NFL career and could be a key piece in this defensive back room. And then LT Overton, kind of a tweener between an edge and a defensive tackle. Could be a guy who, he's a very exciting pick to me. Could be a guy who develops into a really nice rotational player on that defensive line. Like I said, kind of a tweener. So if the coaches don't have a plan, he could go by the wayside in the NFL, where it's like, not really an edge, not really a tackle, kind of in between. Where do we play him? What do we do with them? But it sounds like this coaching staff absolutely has a plan with LT Overton. So I'm excited to see what he does. And he's expected to do a lot of the dirty work in the middle. Won't get a lot of credit, a lot of props from fans, but a very important cog in the wheel, if you will. A very, very important piece. Very important to have guys like that, I should say, on the defensive line who aren't household names, but do a lot of the dirty work that let other guys get recognized. And if you've made it this far in the video and haven't hit that subscribe button, I don't know what to tell you. Go ahead and hit the thing. You might as well like the video while you're at it and leave a comment too. We're a brand new YouTube channel trying to get to a couple hundred subscribers by the end of the month. Any support is greatly, greatly appreciated. And with that said, let's get back to the video. And when we look over this free agency period the Cowboys went through, they signed Jalen Thompson. That was their big signing of the period. They also brought in Kobe Durant, corner, PJ Locke, another safety, Otito Ogbonia, who's going to be probably a starter or a player that receives a ton of playing time on the defensive line. Really good run defender, not much of a pass rusher, but that's not really the point of those interior guys, at least not for the guys like Otito, I should say. And then Jonathan Bullard, same thing, a good run defender, a guy that's going to help the linebackers flow. But the big one, obviously, here is Jalen Thompson, and having him in the lineup next to Caleb Downs and presumably Malik Hooker would be the other one. There's going to be a lot of times where all three of those guys are on the field together. If Malik Hooker's off the field, that means Jalen Thompson and Caleb Downs are on the field. If it's nickel, maybe you've got Kobe Durant in the slot. A lot of different things that this team can do with these safeties and corners, but some really good secondary additions that this team dramatically and drastically needed based on what their secondary was just a season ago. And those are just your additions this year. That's not to mention the guys who you traded for last season, the guys who were hurt last year to start the season and got hurt during the season. But we're talking about DeMarvion Overshown, who's fully healthy. We're talking about Deron Bland, who, right now he's working the cords and he's kind of off to the side doing his own thing in OTAs, but he's expected to be able to play. Shavon Ravel, second-year player. We were all stoked out of our minds that he fell to the 3rd round in last year's draft. Had to play with a brace when he finally came back into the lineup. This year, no brace in OTAs, moving around, very fluid, looks healthy, says he feels great. So you got those guys, and then you talk about Quinnen Williams, who you traded for in the middle of last season. He wasn't in camp last year, right? So now this is a full offseason with a new DC, the new players around him. Kenny Clark, right, in the interior. They traded for him as part of that Micah Parsons trade last season, just before the first game of the year. And so now all these guys, you're throwing them into the lineup and they're getting full training camps, a full offseason with the team. They're healthy, ready to go. So, I mean, you're talking about an entirely new look defense just from a personnel standpoint, but then you throw in, it's a brand new DC, a brand new system. And this isn't just some random DC who we hope is going to succeed. We all have extremely high expectations for this guy, even though he's never called a play in the NFL. Very high expectations because the tree he comes from, because what he's done historically in the past within that coaching tree under the Vic Fangios of the world. Listen, there's very high expectations for him. And is it going to be perfect in year one of the implementation of this scheme, of this brand new system? No, there's going to be mistakes made. But listen, if this defense can be what it was or give you the production that it was in the 3 games last year, if you remember the Raiders, the Eagles, and the Chiefs. Give me the defense from those 3 games, and maybe just even a smidge better than that. And there's no reason to think this team can't be an actual NFC contender in 2026. That's not wild to say. Do you think it's crazy? Let me know in the comments below if you think that's a ridiculous thing to say, a crazy thing to expect. I think that some of us, myself included, are a little bit scared to hoist such lofty expectations upon this defense, giving all the new additions. But these new additions are really, really good, I think, for the most part. Some are mid-tier guys. Some are guys who could be elite, right? Like the Quinnen Williams of the world. Caleb Downs, I think, is going to be, I know it's a rookie season, but I think he's one of the most pro-ready guys to come out of the draft defensively in recent seasons. He's going to be, I think, maybe a candidate, without doubt, a candidate for the Pro Bowl. I think he'll be somewhere between a Pro Bowler and an All-Pro in just year 1, right? Crazy. Is that crazy? Probably. He's a rookie, but I think that is a realistic expectation given what we know about the player, what he's done in college, and the pro systems he's played in, and he's coming ready to go year 1. And honestly, guys, how many times did we sit there last season and say, man, if this defense was just a mid-tier defense, if they were just serviceable, given what we know about this offense and the continuity of this offense this year, and even running back 2, Jaden Blue getting tons of credit already in OTAs from Shoddy as somebody who's matured in year 2. If that's a whole nother element to this offense that can be added with a speed back that it didn't have last year. So listen, continuity in the offense, they were already really, really good. Dak Prescott's playing at the top of his game. One of the NFL's best quarterbacks, and it's not really debatable. If you debate that, you're kind of a crazy person, and you lost all credibility, because he's obviously one of the elite guys in the league. You can talk about playoffs, it's a little bit different, right? We'll see how that goes if they get there this season, but there's no doubt about it that he's playing at the top of his game and one of the best in the league, like I said. So you pair that with a defense that should be improved, even if it's a top 20, top 15, and I hate talking defensive rankings because that can be misleading a little bit. For example, the Cowboys had a top 5 defense in 2023. They lost in the playoffs because of that defense in 2023. They couldn't stop the run at all. The whole thing was built on getting ahead, big lead, and then go rush the passer. Well, once that didn't happen, it was kaput. And so I think the Cowboys are now building this thing the right way, where the defense can stand on its own 2 legs. And while it might not be perfect this year, they're starting this rebuilding process, and I think they made a lot of headway in this offseason towards something bigger and better that can actually last into the playoffs and maybe even to a Super Bowl at some point in time. But let me know what y'all think. I appreciate y'all checking out this video in its entirety. If you made it this far, please, like I said earlier, subscribe, like, comment, all that cool stuff. You know what to do. We're a baby tiny channel, very small fish in a big pond. Any support helps us get into the algorithm. And with that said, we'll go ahead, catch you next time.
Cowboys nation, stand up tall. We'll never let spirit fall. Let's go, baby! Blue and white will always fight to turn